All right, I hope we are ready to start. Welcome everybody to our first this year, second ever webinar that we are doing together with Tomas. I hope we don't need to introduce ourselves. I hope many of you already heard us in the last webinar. Those who didn't, you can watch it to get the introduction. So let's get moving. Some practical info at the beginning. You can start asking your questions actually already. We will answer all of the questions at the end. And you can also use Twitter later on. The hashtags are down at the bottom of the page. So if you forget to ask something, if you get the idea later about what you want to know, feel free to ask us over Twitter as well. We'll try to respond as much as possible. And also, because we got overwhelming response to the first webinar, we decided that from now on we will try to do this kind of webinars every month, probably towards end of the month, but more on that later. So, what are the tweaks? Where did they come from? What are they for? The neat tweaks started as a sort of experiment. We started them as the project, where we wanted to explore the things, to see what we can do with Magnolia, how far we can get it, what we can do there. And then people saw it and started asking about it.
Yes, and well, even during this working on the tweaks, we have a bunch of funny story around, and well, even a bunch of fun. And all this topic of the tweaks really start as another nice story and funny situation. We didn't plan it, we didn't concept it. We just almost a year ago, where we was flying to States to do a conference. We were on the plane, 8,000 feet in the air, and maybe I was finishing some work or something. I can remember very well. I stopped working, and before I went to sleep, I just was complaining to Jan that sometimes some easy tasks in the Magnolia are bit overcomplicated, like for example in the JCR configuration to add a property, you have to go to configuration, you have to click to add a property, then you have untitled property created, where you have to click on this untitled property name to edit it, then again click to save it, then click to value part, edit it, save it, and at the end you have like 4, 5, 6 clicks just to set the property with the value. And I was just complaining and asking why it's not like a dialog, basic dialog with the field and with the value, which I can fill and just enter, and that's all. And well, I just said it like that, and we didn't continue with discussion. I just falling to sleep.
Yeah, indeed. So Tomas was taking his rest and relaxing after preparing for the workshop, but it really got me thinking. So I got my laptop out and I started to prototype what could be there done. It's indeed just a simple dialogue, and like 10-15 minutes later I just had it done. It was working. So being a good friend, I just woke up Tomas immediately from his slumber because I wanted to show him what is done and how it exists and how he can use it in his upcoming workshop.
I was really surprised that he went me up so quickly, and okay, I want to try it, I want to test it, and at some point of this flight we found ourselves, we are flying over the ocean, we both have laptops open, we are trying to connect to each other, so no airplane mode at all, everything on Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, using that Mac features to share the data. I just remember at some point I look at the network connection, and there was some name like cockpit board and this stuff. So it was like, okay, we maybe don't have to do this. But yeah, at the end we landed successfully. We didn't break anything. We didn't make any blue screens on the windows in the plane. And because it works really fast, all this process, I start to ask Jan one more tweaks about another, what about this, and it really start, it really goes or expands really huge, and not only that I was asking questions or concepts or prototypes, experience for some tweaks, but he delivered them maybe faster than I asked for them. It was amazing how he delivered in a couple of seconds. And yeah, the truth is that now, maybe a year later, we have around 30 tweaks or the modification in the Magnolia, which do some nice stuff in it. And so during the time, we sometimes show them on the presentation because we were showing something else, and we're doing some webinars.
Indeed. So originally, this really started as internal project. We didn't have any idea of sharing it, or didn't even think that there would be interest for it. But since it leaked through some of our presentations and workshops, and since we also started to use it on all the projects that each of us was running, more and more people saw it, and more people asked about what is this module, where it comes, what are those modifications, how they can get it. So that's what made us in the end decide to put it all on GitHub, make it public, and expose it to everybody so people can look at it, use it, or even just get inspired. And as Tomas said, right now we have about 30 of those different tweaks. There were about 9 releases with various bug fixes and added features. We now have also 2 major versions. One of them is for Magnolia 5.3, one of them is for Magnolia 5.4. And that's basically what we have.
Yeah, what we have. The other reason why we decide now to do this webinar is that we are feeling like with this topic, with these tweaks, which are mainly about the JCR configuration, we are almost done. I'm, as a front-ender, using it really heavily on every single project, but now we would like to make a bold line after this topic. We will still continue editing more of them, but not so heavy like we did after now. And we already also, Jan write a blog post about the tweaks, and we will couple of months we are discussing to doing this webinar as a nice end, good end of the whole this topic, and really discuss and show everything publicly with you or with the users with the Magnolia.
Yeah.
And exactly as Jan mentioned, that we have 2 versions, one for Magnolia 5.3, one for Magnolia 5.4, where I, as a front-ender, would like to say that for 5.3 and every new project I have to do on the 5.3, the neat tweaks are also must-have for this, because they can speed up, especially work in the configuration. Because if you're doing or developing on 5.3, you are super user or admin or front-ender, you really spend a lot of time, like, I don't know, 60, 70, 80% in the configuration, JCR configuration, and that's the place where neat tweaks can speed up your work like 2 times, 3 times, and avoid some issues. You may have some typos and so on. Of course, if you're working on 5.4 and trying to ignore YAML or configuration by file, it's
and maybe
still
you are just stuck with old project which was done on SDK and it's just migrated in 5.4 and still needs to be done in JCR.
Exactly. So in that case, you have still same value which they gives you. You are not losing anything. Maybe there is still few more tweaks in the 5.4, which we will show later. But if you go the regular way that you are using YAML files or these resources and config by file, you will not need them so much, and I can imagine to do the basic project without them. But later, in a couple of minutes, or almost now, I would like to show you all these, or most of them, on the examples during the live demo, and you may see yourself if they are useful or if you want to give them a try and so on.
Yeah. Let's switch to the demo. As Tomas said, what we've done for the tweaks is pretty much finished, at least for now. Where's the go-to meeting? And I need to make somebody else presenter. So we feel like 95, 98% this is done and finished, and there will be maybe bug fixes for the tweaks, but no rapid new development, because we feel that everything we could have done is already done there. And this year it seems like our focus is more getting into helping the front-enders and helping with developing the templates more rapidly and removing obstacles there. That's where we feel we can make the most difference right now. Anyway, enough about future. Tomas, demo is yours.
Okay, just quick check. Do you see my screen?
Yes, I do.
Okay, perfect. I hope everybody does. So let's let's start with the basic, or where we have most of our tweaks, and that's in the configuration. I would say neat configuration, which is extended config up, probably familiar to everybody in developing 5.3 and even later the 5.4. And we add a couple of the action here into right menu, where let me just quickly show you some of them. Well, for now I will work with this module. We still have this add property, which was the one I was speaking about from the airplane. This is really our first week.
And you see that the dialog is really super simple.
It's really super simple, exactly how I expected it. But really quickly, we extend this one to another action we called add what need. And let me just show you when, for example, creating a dialog. And in case I would like to extend, for example, this dialog, so what I have to do is just what I need, and I may use the
the notation that you will see is actually the Magnolia notation. Is the same notation that you see in the bar down at the screen when you select any node or any property. So you can just copy it from there in case you are using something that exists elsewhere.
Exactly, and you may use one field to create a node or the multiple nodes. I will also show soon, and the property, and also assign the value of the property. Doing that, I created this part. Another thing you may notice really quickly is that the extends, it's green, it's really looks like a link, and it is a link. So I may just click on it, and I can get to the original configuration, and not only expand something in the previous huge multi-module tree of the whole configuration, but only filtered in the new tab, filtered only to that one with the original dialog in this case. So if I want in my new dialog, I'm doing now just, for example, change label of this one, I can just copy this part, which is regular part. I was going back to the original one, again use add what need, place this, and do a new label. And doing so, you may see now I have multiple nodes created in the deeper tree just using one dialog, which is really really powerful and can really speed up your work to really heavily in the combination of the extents and going through tabs, switching between the tabs, and so on. Again, or another tweak that is not only one dialog or the tweak we add. We add, well, a bunch of dialogues, and again for the dialog, let me show you another one, and it's cool because we have a dialog to create a dialog, which is something what I really like. In case you are not going to extend, still you can, but if you want to create a new dialog, okay. Of course, I can extend just selecting anyone, or just add tabs like this. And second, I may even edit the actions of the dialog, where the save and the cancel, which are the default one, are already checked, but I may add another or uncheck them and so on. And just save, and again I have a dialog with the basic structure for the actions, for the form, but in the form it ends on the empty field node where it's expecting fields. And as you may notice on the right side, when I go to the field node, it's changed and I can add a field. So I have another dialog to put something in the dialog, and with this I may go, okay, label, and just want to choose that this is a default text field definition. I may put a description, default value, mandatory, or extending something I don't want now, so I may keep it empty. And here you may see it's create a dialog field. So just reusing this field, I may create a huge dialog with multiple tabs and so on. So again, it's helpful. You don't have to really type it or going to each node and the property one by one.
Indeed, but as cool as this is actually one of the examples of the dialogues or the tweaks that in Magnolia 5.4 with light development have limited use only, because you will be doing your dialogues in the file system.
Exactly. Other than that, we still have other dialogues, like one for other template definition, which again you may type just fields you need. It may be the name, it may be an extend dialog ID where you may select the description and so on, and just saving it, you are able to create template definition. We have another dialog to define the REST client, which, well, it's not probably interesting for everybody, but for these who want to work with the REST API, it's really helpful. And we
actually,
also have one.
The reason it exists is because I needed it for the demo at the last conference, and I was lazy to type the definition during the demo.
Yes. We also have one to create an app, but I will show this one a little bit later. Other things you may notice in this configuration is that the modules are ordered by alphabetical, ordered by name alphabetical. It's not really a big deal to have it or a big change until you go to another Magnolia when Wideweeks are not installed, and you'll figure out that the default order, or well, the order how the modules are installed, can be sometimes really massive, especially if you have 50 or more of them. And then you're really missing the Wideweeks. Just I want to have it alphabetical. It's so cool.
Yeah.
But
actually, you know, the first time I did this feature, I got a big complaint from Tomas saying that this is something he absolutely doesn't want, because he is so used to have his own module ordered at either the beginning or at the end of the list of the modules, and he doesn't want to be looking for it. So there is extra feature where you can select the modules that you want to have out of order on top. So, like, for example,
yeah, exactly. I was even complaining that I don't like it, and say this comment and stop this discussion, and didn't expect anything else. And it was a couple of the minutes, and Ian just told me, okay, use the Wideweeks now, go to configuration, go to preferred modules, and put the name of your module at the beginning, which is the same name now are the Wideweeks, and you may see the Wideweeks are at the beginning before the A module starting with the 8. So even this small things gets there really quickly, and now, yeah, I prefer this to have the modules I'm working on to have at the first position.
Yeah, but maybe also this tweak is actually a good example of how far we went with the tweaks and how far we were not willing to go, because, for example, reordering here works, but only on restart. So if you manually change the order, it will not immediately snap back, or you will not be prevented from changing the order. It will be just restored after you restart your instance of Magnolia.
Yeah, but I found myself at the end that the alphabetical is exactly what is the best for working with it. So after this, we didn't make any single change there, or discussing any changes of the order, because this was completely fine at the end when I had a chance to test it. Okay, other things or tweak I would like to show is here on the bottom of the action panel, which are the bookmarks. And we create this. Well, it's not so advanced or so smart as the favorites here on the top, because the favorites on the top, they are assigned just for the user and can go to the different workspaces or apps or anything. But I really want something easy, what only editors can have, or super users can have on the bottom of this. And like here you may see I have the multi-site, so if I click on it, I'm immediately redirected to the multi-site definition. This is there out of the box, but I can easily, I was here, for example, if I'm going to work heavily now on the dialogues for the components and I want to bookmark this location, I may just click to add a bookmark, which was the only one
it will indeed take a couple of seconds to do it. So there is, well, it seems like very simple action for Tomas. It is a very simple action on the front, and at the back end there is a number of things which need to be happened. Actually gave me a couple of hours of effort to make it work. Magnolia in design of the apps assumes that the action bar is static, that it's defined before you start up and it's not changing throughout the app lifecycle. So what we had to do here in order to make this feature work was to first update the action bar definition, then wait for the observation to kick in to pick up the changes, and then restart the app and restore it and reopen it at the exact position where you have been when you click the button. So that's what takes a couple of seconds, even though in the end you see it just as a snap after and it's done, but that's what's happening behind the scene, and that's probably one of the most complicated tweaks in there.
Yeah, well, for me, for the front end, it's done. I have it now linked to the content. I may click on it, and I'm back there anytime I open the Magnolia. So it's cool. It's super cool, how someone may say. Let me just okay, to close it. To see how it works, you may also go to, if you go to manage the bookmarks, you may see that they are only in the actions, created actions in the action bar, and for the new one I created, we call it BKMK content. It's just, this one was created when I add a bookmark. It's extends some action, and it's simply just editing another action here to this right panel, and it's easy like that. So then you may go, for example, here and change the order manually, and when you restart configuration, they will change the order and so on. So you may manage them really as anything else in the JCR configuration. So that's almost for the configuration. I will get back a bit later when I was talking about changes for the 5.4. Another thing I would like to show you now is in the page editor. I'm going now to edit this page, and what you may notify very quickly is this floating panel on the right side, which was again nice story or nice beginning, completely spontaneous. When I was working, I think for the corporate website, I was using Bootstrap framework, exactly this module as a beginning. And since Bootstrap framework is working with the breakpoints and the screen size with the default out of the box Magnolia, when you have like a static or fixed right panel and some margins here and some margins here, the screen where you really see the page is limited just to like 60–70% of this. And in that size, just on the laptop screen, Bootstrap framework already decide to break to the small screen, and then instead 4 columns side by side in Magnolia, you see only 2 of them and another 2 below them, and that's kind of ugly or not nice to edit the content there or really work with the page layout. And the day when I was discovering this and thinking how to go over or thinking about completely rewriting breakpoints for the Bootstrap in this case, I met with one guy, one Magnolian, and I was showing him, or not showing him, I was discussing with him about this issue or this not nice thing. And I remember that we have something similar, this floating panel for the preview mode. So I was asking, okay, why, if we have it for the preview mode, we already have almost everything done. Can we reuse it? Maybe just optionally for this who wants to use it. So put it for the editor as well, and have the full width of the page like now from left to right. And well, as an answer, it was like, oh yeah, maybe, but it may take a few weeks, maybe a few months, and we need to go to UI, concept, and designer, and so on and so on. And well, anyhow, we stopped the discussion. And I think the same day at the evening, I met with Jan, and we drank a box of beers or a bottle of wine. What was it? Yeah, and I was telling him exactly the same story. Or this,
yeah, and indeed, but when I heard about it, I thought like, no, this is strange. Why should it take so long? It should be just a simple change in the style sheet if you know where to change it, right? So having the plenty of wine there and the food as well, so we just started looking in the code instead of going somewhere for dinner and searching for the correct place, which we found relatively fast. It actually took all in all about an hour to get it done, and most of the time we spent trying to figure out what the right relative path is to the elements which we wanted to, or to the files which we wanted to modify in order to be able to modify them on the fly. So
Yeah, exactly. We don't want to just override it. We want to add something in extra. And well, as I'm front-ender working on the live instance, usually I want to have a change to just reload the editor and have a change to change it or edit it anytime. So now in the resource app, in the new one 5.4 or on the old one in 5.3, you will have a folder UI admin central where is the neat theme CSS and where are all these styles. There is a little bit more styles at the end, but the ones for the right panels are from here to, I guess, here. Yeah, so it's about 26 lines, 28. So it wasn't a big change. It just was about where to put this file. And
what's actually beautiful about it is the fact that we are not overriding the entire Magnolia team. We are just adding to it. So we are just changing the bits and pieces that we wanted to modify.
Yeah, but one thing you may be sure that you are using Wideweeks right when you install them. Just when you see the app launcher around it, which is something that Jan was not asking, but there was another story, right?
That's probably another funny story. So this time it was me complaining. I have been on another trip and visiting a prospect and discussing the Magnolia, showing the demo of Magnolia. And basically, when I got out after 3 hours meeting, their biggest complaint was that the Magnolia looks too much like Windows 8 with all the tiles we have in the app launcher. So while we were driving away from the location with Tomas in the car, I was complaining to him about it. And well, a few minutes later, he just came back with this kind of modification of the admin central with the rounded icons, which make it look much more like an iPad or iPhone. And I really loved it so much that it actually became the default theme for the neat tweaks. And as Tomas said, it's very nice and easy way to recognize that you have actually installed them correctly.
Yeah, and the same way how Jan likes them, I kind of hate them because I'm not fan of these rounded corners. So every time when I start a new instance with the neatweeks and I see that, I immediately have to go to edit that file, founded lines. I now remember as this, just this 4 lines, which I'm just always removing. And then if I will reload the screen, you may see that the app launcher now is in the normal position. And to be able to solve this, well, it's not an issue with just small detail style change, but to able to do this so quickly and so on the live instance without any changes, restarting and so on, it's because we found the right amount of the dots and the slashes in the path we need to change. In the story we was speaking about a couple of minutes ago. And yeah, because of that, we are now able to edit, well, or change almost everything in the Magnolia was relevant to the styles. What we also did is, because I'm now on the 5.4, I can show on the 5.3, but just the thing that you are going to edit any resources or on the 5.3 edit template. Originally, you had just a small dialog of half of this size we have now. And one of these styles also changed this to the full width or using the full space. And now on the 5.4, it's one of the tweaks which gets to the product itself.
That's one of the things which have been indeed done on the product already. But coming back to the page editor, that was not actually the only tweak we did for the page editor. There is more, right?
Yes, exactly. And I'm just there now. We, again, as in the configuration, we add a few more actions into right panel. One, again, unbelievably helpful for the front enders is action to go to open template definition, which, don't worry, is visible only for the super users, so editors can't mess anything in the configuration. And if I have now selected, for example, this image component and go to the definition, I'm immediately moved to the neat configuration where I have opened only that component, so I can edit it. And as you may see, I can go to dialog from here. Similar way as I was showing for the extend, we have same for the dialogs or for the editing templates. And when I click on the dialog, I'm now in the dialog definition. And if I want to change field or anything, I can just do it here. So it's a really fast way to find something.
Which is
Okay,
again one of those tweaks which has limited usefulness in Magnolia 5.4 with the light development. On the other hand, it will still take you to the resources and you are still able to see the definition there, but you probably want to edit it in the file system, but at least you know which one it is.
Yes, yes, yes. Other than that, we have two more action. One of them is, and again, I can't really show too much, but is the change a component type, where you really can change just the type of the component. Here I have available only one component in this place, but you need to kind of think about this when you're developing the components, that you have to use the same names, labels, abstract, or any property names across multiple components, which then allow you, if you just switch the template, the properties are loaded again. So just think about it.
The same properties are the same. If they are different, then of course you don't want to duplicate.
Yeah, sure. And probably the last thing here in the editor is the duplication of the component. So for the okay, let's do it here. It's really nice or powerful tool, especially if you're working with the Bootstrap framework or any framework which allow you to work with the rows and the columns. So same way as I can, for this teaser, I can click to duplicate the component here, and I have the same teaser in the same column, so I can reuse it and just go to edit some text content, whatever. Or the same way, I can duplicate the whole row of these components, which, as we test with our editors, it's really useful for them, and they just
actually we have one editor on the line. Ben, are you around? How do you like this feature? Do you use it?
You're surprising me there. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, thanks for the surprise. Yeah, I work closely with Tomas on the corporate website of our own. I love this feature. Yeah, this is something which we use daily.
Cool, thank you, Ben.
Glad to hear that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, okay, and actually, this is one of the features. It has actually more power, which is not really visible here. So what it does when you duplicate the component, it will duplicate it right after the component you are duplicating. So in case you have a long list of components, it doesn't get lost somewhere at the end, but it's duplicated right after, which is not really visible here, but you have to take our word for it that it works like that. And it's actually one of the features which is already again in Magnolia. So if you the latest version, which was released like, I don't know, a week or 2 weeks ago, then it should be already in.
Yeah, there was another funny story about this, that because of the Wideweeks, developers have to work on this and put the application of the component into product itself. So they was asking us about it, and yeah, let's take that code, maybe review it, or if you need to modify it and put it there and just reuse it, we are completely fine with that. So they do so. But they take it just the part with the duplication, and when someone has to review this ticket when it was closed, so he figured out that if you click on the duplication, the component is not duplicate just below it, but at the bottom of the page, which is like a default kind of duplication in Magnolia and the configuration and everywhere. So they were opening this ticket with this node. Will be nicer to have it duplicated just below. Then they came back to us.
Which indeed meant just copying another 10 lines of code from the tweaks. So.
Yeah. So they was complaining with us that it's not complete feature. No, you just have to copy the whole code, not just first part of it. So they do so, and now it's in the product exactly in the same way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And that's actually a story with the tweaks. I see some of you asking the questions whether those tweaks, or some of them at least, will make it into the product, and that's what's happening. So some, like 2 or 3 of those tweaks, the full width editing bar editing area for the code, the duplication, or possibility to, those things are already in 5.4 edition and they are already released. There is another feature which is about being able to, when you are creating new component, being able to store that component either at the beginning or at the end of the list. That one is under development, and there is actually more things which will be integrated into the product. It's just not that we are adding that module en banc all together but rather selecting, picking up, and taking the most useful and least problematic things in the product.
Yeah, exactly. We have a little bit more to say about this, but before we get there, I would like to show you about 3 other tweaks we have just in 5.4. And it's again because differences between 5.4, 5.3, and we need them for the 5.4 project, so we then don't have time to migrate them back to 5.3 or something. It was more complicated than we expected. But in 5.4 now, cool thing, you may create, we have a dialog again, we have a dialog to create or define an app.
We just love dialogues.
And it's, I really love dialogues. Why not use them? You know, we have them, why not use them? And it's really just a dialog like this that I have to choose name of my app I want to create, so my app, choose in which, you know, in the app launcher, these lines where I want to have it, so in the edit one, so I want to have it in the edit line. And if I don't want to change the icon or default of repository and that I want to support folders, I just have to click on the save, which again takes a couple of seconds.
It takes a couple of seconds. What's happening behind the scene is that we are invoking the exact same Groovy script for creating apps, which exists already in 5.3. So in 5.3, even though you don't have the dialog, the script is there and you can do the exactly same thing.
Yeah, as you may see, something what seems like dialog was created here, but to be able to see it in the app launcher, I have to restart this app launcher, which means log out, log in, back, and here you may see I have the webinar app, which for now is still empty. But because we already have dialog for creating fields, it's really easy to go there. It's this dialog. I will just show you detail, editor, form, tabs, and by default there are 2 fields like name and file upload, and I just want to add a new one. I can go add field just quickly, and it's going to be rich text definition. Just save it, and now if I will go to that app and add a webinar. Okay, was I too fast?
You need to close the app and start it again. No? The demo effect.
I just was too fast. As you may see, here is the abstract which I just add. So again, using the dialogs to create the structure of the Magnolia of the JCR configuration is really cool, and you are avoiding typos or misplacing any nodes and so on. So this is one of them. The other one is, and again, one we want to have for kind of migrating content. The issue I have with the Magnolia out of the box is when you like changing all templates or components to from the old one to new ones. It's complicated to find where exactly they are used. So now we have, let me just, I was working with the Bootstrap framework module, and I was showing, for example, component, HTML component. We have a button here, which is our action, which is a list usage. If I will click on it, it will take a couple of time, a few seconds.
Yeah, what's actually again happening behind the scene is that we are searching over various workspaces for various patterns of the values which could occur to find out all possible usages, or as many of them as we can.
Exactly, and as you can see, for this case, for this component, we have 2 usage or 2, well, extents definition, whatever. In the configuration, I may click on it, I may get there, and 2 in the website itself, which means I can just click on the path, I am in the Pages app, and then if I will open this page, I'm on the page where it's used, and boom, here it's HTML component, so I can really easily get there where the component is used and be sure that before I migrate everything or launch the site, the old components are not used anywhere, which is cool. Similar to this one, which is on the 5.4 only, we have in the configuration, there is another tab here, which is called config status, which is a tab or feature which counts how many extents you are using in your Magnolia at all. And what's the most important one, how many of them is unresolved, well, let's say broken extents, which this for the front enders sometimes be really pain to find. If something is extending something else and then one of them is deleted, it can be really pain to find it. It's where it goes to. So here I have one unresolved. I may see it here. I can click on it, and you may see there is the extents which I added before this webinar, just to broken it. And if I will fix it, just removing this, not only it's changed immediately to the link, so even this link is like a check, it's working, or the target location exists, but also in the configuration, if I refresh the data, then there is a 0 unresolved.
Yeah, and sorry about styling it. That's just another example of why I don't do front end normally.
Yeah, I still haven't time to look at this.
Yeah, anyway, we are shortly getting towards the end, so while we would love to show you many more tweaks, as Tomas said, there is about 30 of them together, we probably should stop it here and maybe say a few words about why those tweaks are not in Magnolia or why they are not supported by Magnolia. I already started on that. What we wanted when we started with it, it was just a wild experiment where we were trying to explore how far we can go, what we can twist and change and modify, and what benefit we can get out of it. And for that, we wanted to have very fast, very short life cycle, being able to do the rapid development, rapid releases, no approval, no consent with anybody, just do the things and get them out for the real user testing. So this phase is now pretty much over. We think we got it just as far as we can. Maybe over the time or based on your feedback, we will find more things to do. But right now, what's in there is pretty much stable. It has been tested by Tomas, and our marketing team has been confirmed, and by some other users. If there were any issues, once we could find, we fixed. And right now we got into that phase where this thing is getting stable, and any features which are in there and people find them useful in general, we are slowly migrating them in the product. So if you start using the tweaks in your project, what can happen is that there might be still mistakes, like for example this changing of the types of components. There is still, I think, the place for improvement in the searching patterns for the components or for the other components that are allowed in given area. That's something that might need some extra work. There might be some other issues, like recently we had somebody opening a support ticket with Magnolia saying, hey, if they install the need tweaks, their workflow sometimes stops working after the restart. Indeed, we found out that in all about 7 installations which I have and a couple of others that Tomas has, we never run into that problem. But if the need workflow module was started before the need tweaks at the beginning, the reordering caused workflow to not start properly. So it actually exposed issue in Magnolia, which Magnolia is fixing, and we also refined that feature immediately to make sure that the reordering is happening only once and not every time, to make sure that this thing works. So there might be some mistakes. We didn't test it on all browsers, but if you find issue with any particular browser, let us know. We will try to do the patch and to make it happen, make it fix. Those tweaks are slowly being integrated, but if you want some fixes or some things there faster, you're also free to look at the code to take it as an example. For example, in that need config where it starts 2 subups at the opening of the app, you might want to look at that code to see how it's done. There is a number of other actions or things which are in there that you might take for yourself as an inspiration. If you start developing on top of it or adding in there, feel free to fork the code and or submit the patches or create a pull request. I will try to add it in and make a release as soon as possible. Typically it takes a couple of minutes, so it's not really very time consuming, and I'm free to do it pretty much every evening. So that's that. Maybe one more thing that we want to mention before we jump into the questions is where you can find the tweaks.
Yes, exactly. Probably the best or the easy way is to use the Google. If you just search for the need tweaks Magnolia, all first 3 results may be interesting for you. One at the info about them on our marketplace. I definitely recommend this place for looking for any modules for the Magnolia. Then there is also a link to the blog post itself, and just posted I don't know, a month ago about all these. It's almost everything we were discussing today, with showing some part of the code and so on. So you may definitely read this one. But the most important thing is the GitHub location, where you can pull, or you can see where to set up the Maven dependency, or just download the bundle from the Nexus one for Magnolia 5.3, one for Magnolia 5.4. You may see already the changes, and of course, if you will find any issue or anything, you may just create a ticket or the issue here and use this as a communication tool with us.
Yeah, indeed. Do we want to jump into the questions now? I guess we can, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, somebody says nice background. I guess that was for the first slide. Thank you very much. That was our old office. We are working on the slide with our new office, which hopefully will look even more beautiful. Seems like a lot of beer. Yes, Tomas likes a lot of beer. I can confirm that he can drink twice as much as I can, but that's probably
well,
also
much more you can imagine, trust me, for the whole Wideweeks bundle.
Yeah, indeed. The question is, what you are currently showing, working only for JCR config, does it work for YAML file config as well? Well, when you work with the YAML files, typically you work in the file system. If you are working in the repository, then, for example, links to open the templates and so on, they should be working. But for editing the files in the file system and in your text editor where you are editing the YAML config files, unfortunately, those actions will not add the YAML code in your or action to create the field or the dialog inside of your favorite text editor. So in that sense, no, it's not working in there, but you can still use the tweaks with Magnolia 5.4 and the light development just for the other things than editing dialogs and templates. Then another question is, can you move it right after? I presume that goes for the module ordering. Yes, you can. You can actually reorder the modules after they are sorted alphabetically. What will happen, as I said, after restart, Magnolia will check if the order has changed, and if yes, it will reorder it back, but you can also switch it off if you don't plan to use it. So that's also a possibility. As Tomas said, it seems like a very small change, but after having used it on a couple of instances, every time now I run across the instance which doesn't have it, it annoys me extremely when I need to find some module. It's just unbelievable.
Indeed, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, are you planning on integrating the not so opinionated tweaks like the links in the configuration app or the translucent action bar in the pages? The translucent action bar, yes. The links, I haven't discussed
about the
that.
bookmarks, I guess, this part, the links.
Well, I think it's about making anything which links to another node clickable link.
Yeah, okay, you're right.
And so far that was not discussed. We have some other ideas, or Magnolia has some other ideas about how to improve the config app and basically to hide and abstract the tree. So we will see how this works together with that idea, or whether maybe it becomes obsolete by the time. Then this is very cool indeed. Thank you very much. And I noticed in the documentation examples, there is lots of work in the dialog, but not enough examples on how to extract and use data to render it to a website. My issues is mostly writing FTL files. For example, delegate multi-value transformers. Yeah, well, that's actually one of the things which Tomas and me see as well, that there is a number of examples on how to do the hello world or how to start with Magnolia. But after that, there is not so much material which would help you to actually get from this hello world example into implementing the real project and facing all the things which you run into their configuration of the sites, getting from the HTML prototype that you get into, or translating that into the page templates and component templates and other things. And that's actually what we are planning for our next webinar. So in the next month, hopefully we will have more information on that, right?
Yeah, well, I hope so. We still need to plan it, but I would really like to do a webinar about how to do the project, how to move from the Hello Magnolia to do the project, something about site definition, multi-site definition teams, a little bit advanced components, templates, and all this stuff. And I will have to check this your transforming field values link you posted in the question. What is it about? And it's interesting topic for the more audience. We can definitely mention it in the next webinar as well.
Yeah. Okay. Next question, or maybe a comment.
I agree completely.
I think you should be banned from accessing the office. You're performing best on airplanes and when drinking. Yes, indeed, we are, and we are very proud of it. Thank you very much.
But we are almost working on it, because the original idea for this webinar was to sit together in the Czech office, as we did on the last webinar, with the one microphone, one laptop, sit together, do kind of talk show webinar, and well, have a fun, maybe some beer after it. And at the end, it's finished like, I'm working in the Basel, I am now in the Czech doing webinar. Jan is working in the Czech in the Kroměříž, and he's now in the Basel. And we are connected remotely via multiple Skypes and GoToMeetings and so on, doing this, not in the one room and not having beer together after.
Yeah, but we can have beer each of us separately, right? Okay, another question is moving content from one area to another area is still not possible. Well, it's not part of the tweaks, but there is actually a solution. Maybe, Tomas, can you go to the marketplace? I don't know whether it's listed on marketplace yet or not, but we have now, I'm talking as Magnolia, not as the developer of Neatweeks. So as a Magnolia, we have a solution which allows you to actually basically copy component in any page and in any area and paste it in another area or even another page, as long as that component is allowed to live in there, and it should be listed as a solution on the marketplace rather soon. And eventually this will be also integrated in Magnolia, just not right now. But this is something which we see as a need as well, and there is indeed solution from somebody else coming for it. And the last one, you answered it already. Okay, I don't know when, but I'm glad that I did. All right, any more questions? Yes, there is one. So even on 5.3 is Java 1.8 only. Sorry, I missed the start of the webinar. I'm not so sure. I thought 5.3x version is not actually.
I think it is, but not for the latest. Well, for the latest version of the Neatweeks, which is now, let me check, 104. I am definitely sure there is need of Java 1.8. I had issue with that. But you may go for one of the older ones. I think 103 was without it, but it was missing few later tasks.
Yeah, 103. So the latest version which exists for Magnolia 5.3 branch requires Java 7. You don't need Java 8.
Oh, really?
You only need Java 8 if you want to use the version 2.0x, and that works with Magnolia 5.4.
Okay.
So that's that. There, maybe also if you dive into Java 8 and you start using the latest version of the tweaks, you also might want to check the jar which is called neat tweak common, which has a couple of classes that will make your life much easier when working with Java 8 streams. So if you want to iterate over content using the Java 8 streams, there is some utility classes that you will need sooner or later, so you might want to check that out. But for Magnolia 5.3, Java 1.7 is the one which is required. You don't need Java 1.8. But as Tomas said, some of the features, latest features like the one for app creation, etc., they were not backported into the 1.0x version for exactly this reason, because they would require Java 8, or they would require somebody that would rewrite my code to be compatible with Java 7 only. And another question. Thank you for your response. Looking okay, yeah. we are looking forward to welcome you at the next webinar as well. Thank you. Okay, I think we have time for one more question, if there is anybody able to type fast.
Okay, I have a question, Jan. What do you think the tweet which will? No, let's keep it for the airplane next
Yes,
time.
which tweak do you want? Thanks,
No,
Bobby.
I'm not going to open the Pandora box with the importing YAML files to JCR and so on.
Yeah, well, that's actually the one which is relatively easy, and that's actually indeed the thing which we might do to allow you to take the YAML file and import it into JCR. But in the end, why would you want to do it? It is indeed easier to work with the files in the file system than having to edit multiple hierarchies in the JCR. So maybe just a little advertising. We have also the blogs on blogs.magnolia-cms.com, which is the new Magnolia's own blogging platform that Tomas put together, styled very nicely. So if you want to see any updates from Tomas or from myself, you can find it there. Yes, I'm unstoppable, I know. And yeah, there is actually more things which are coming. So there are also those scriptable selects which you might want to check out. They might help you simplify some of the things. There is also utility for working with REST and JSON, and Tomas was deleting the Java code written by other developers for him ever since he got this one.
Yeah, this one, the JSON, I find it's a really cool one. Now I have real examples of to use them, and I will soon post a blog post about it, and I believe we will also do a whole webinar about it a bit later, because this, yeah, for the working with the Angular or any kind of frameworks which are working with the JSON, this is really amazing thing. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think we are out of time and there are no questions anymore. So I would like to thank you very much for staying with us up until now. And as we said, we will organize another webinar by end of the next month, where we will be talking about how to get your projects from Hello World example into the real projects and discuss solutions for some real issues that you face when you are actually doing projects with Magnolia. In that regard, how to get your requirements into the code, from specification to the code. So thank you again. Have a nice morning, lunchtime, afternoon, evening, whatever time zone you are right now in, and have fun.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.